Hey guys, so we are going to be looking at stopping today, and that's going to be stopping in our lunging patterns. It's carrying on from our first lunge video where we were looking at being more comfortable, feeling like the lunge feels safer, and we did that by adding in lots of variables like turning the foot in different positions, putting the body in different positions. We're going to carry on from that and look at one of the most important things with badminton, which is our ability to stop and stabilize in the lunge. So we need to be stationary or at least in control to play a shot, and that's generally what we're going to be doing at the end of that lunge position. Because of that, we're going to be doing all the exercise on the racket leg, which is why I have this racket, just to show you which side my racket leg is. If you want to, you could go back and do the whole thing again on your non-racket leg, because this job, its job today is going to be to lead us into the different variations, but that lunge position is going to be all done on the racket leg for this video. So what we're going to be looking at is 3 different depths of lunge. So what you'll find if you play badminton regularly is that depending on how far you're traveling and how soon you get to the shot, how far down or the depth of lunge is going to change. We've got an ideal one where we're not traveling a huge amount of distance down, which is easier to recover from and keeps us more upright, so closer to the shuttle, higher up on the net. And then we've got sort of however many versions in between that and the bottom of your position. We're going to count it as 2. So we're going to go sort of shallow, middle, and then deep. And I'll show you all those in the warm-up. So the warm-up's just going to be that lunging position. I'll keep the racket here for that warm-up so you can see which one my racket leg is, but if you do ever forget, it's my orange shoe. And as always, cats will come across. The whole purpose of this is that you can do this exercise at home like I'm doing in my kitchen. So we're going to start with just doing our 3 different depths of lunge. I'm going to try and do this from slightly different angles so you can see what I'm doing. You don't have to change position. We're just looking to do our standard lunge forwards like we're traveling towards the net. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my ideal lunge, which is going to be quite shallow. Hip's going to stay above the knee and travel back. I'm going to do 3 of those. If you don't have a mirror or something to judge, you can always put something on the floor nearby for you to judge the height of your hip. So that was 3 of those. Now I'm going for sort of a parallel lunge where my hip's going to be in line with my knee, a little bit deeper down, back leg's coming slightly further down towards the floor. More like a standard gym exercise lunge. And then we're going for full depth, a little bit more of a reach. I'm dropping down really low. My knee's going to push forwards a little bit more and back. And this might be when I'm a little bit later on the shuttle, traveling a greater distance and having to do a bit more of a jump forwards. I'm going to go through those 3 again. So shallow for 3. Medium, hip going down a little bit more, nice degree on that front leg. And then going full depth. And you see I'm not really using this leg, I'm pivoting off of it. I'm going to count that as my walk, because there's going to be a lot of these movements. And as always, I will get out of breath and I will lose count. But what we're going to look at is we're going to look at doing about 8 of each of these, because it's going to be a lot of repetition. Feel free to chunk this up and do different sections of this workout. You don't have to do it all together, because all we're going to do is we're going to add in different variables of this leg. So we're going to start with different things up here that are going to mean that we have to travel different distances and slow down at different speeds in that lunge position. So the first thing we're going to start with is going to be a run. Now in the kitchen, obviously I can't travel a great distance, but in badminton we rarely travel huge distances anyway because the court's very small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on my right leg, I'm going to take a running step with my left, and then go into my shallow lunge. I'm going to do 8 of these, so it's going to be step, lunge, push back. And what I'm focusing on is feeling stable here, so not feeling like I'm traveling over, moving around from here. Everything's feeling relatively stable. I'm going to put this down because you now know which one my racket leg is. And we're going for 8. So we're going to start from here. Ready? If you've been playing badminton a while, we can focus on that recovery as well. So stop, shot will be there, push back. Keeping that relatively shallow position. You can always put your racket arm out, or you can do this holding a racket if you prefer. I think that's probably it. So I'm going to carry on, but I'm going to drop into my medium range. So I'm going to drop that hip down a little bit more. If you wanted to make it a bit more cardiovascular, you could take a bigger step off here, That's your choice, and depending on how much room you have to travel. Only just started and I've already lost count, so I'm going to count this one as 8. And then we're going to go into full depth. So it's going to be run, drop, let the knee travel forwards more, and push back. But again, I don't want to feel like I'm traveling over that foot. I feel like I'm going, that's my shot, stop, and back. And I'll show you from this angle here. Knees travelling forwards a bit more, back legs dropping low. And again, I'm going to classify that as 8, so that'd be 1 set. I'm going to rest. And we're going to do that twice, so we're going to do it one more time. I'm going to catch my breath. Some of you might be thinking that it's not really a stop, we're not going static, and that is true, but stop's the easiest way of describing it. Essentially what we're doing is we're slowing down, we're decelerating, we're playing a shot, and then we're changing direction. But when we're thinking about it being stable and stability, we might as well think of it as a stop. And then as you get used to playing, if you're playing badminton at a high level, where your shot is, you're naturally going to go slow down, shot, and then push back, as opposed to still, here, and push back. So it is not stopping in the pure sense of movement completely halts, but it's stopping in the sense that we're going from fast to slow, possibly even close to completely still, and then we're pushing back to fast again. All right, we're going to do that one more time. Running step off the non-racket leg, shallow. Start again. How much time you take between each one of these is up to you. My legs are already starting to get tired. There's a gap, so we're going to peck them on the way. Let's try and encourage him to get out of my shot. There he goes. But again, on that shallow one, I'm just trying to keep my hip up nice and tall. This is our ideal position. It's really easy for me to push out of. Probably means that I was in the right place and I didn't have to travel too far. One more. Then we're going straight into our medium depth. These again. Oh look, he's staying with us now. Alright. And going into full depth. And you'll probably find you naturally take a bigger step into that full depth one. That's fine. But you can do it without the full depth. You just drop down and lean the knee forwards. But we're assuming if you're going that far down, you're probably traveling from a further distance away from your end position. And we're going to call that 8 and have a rest. And I'm going to get a chance to breathe again. So we're going to count that as our first version of stop. And that's our simplest version. Probably the one that we use most when we're playing, because most of the time when we're traveling forwards, over a longer distance, especially if you're playing singles, you're going to be running. So when we're going forwards, I'm most likely going to be traveling like this, whereas backwards, it's more likely to be in a chassé. So it's slightly different, but we're talking about that forwards lunge right now. Second version we're going to do is we're just going to change this from a step into a hop. So partly we're going to be putting more effort in on this leg because I'm going to be starting from here. So we're getting a bit more fatigue on this side, but also because the hop is something we use a lot in all racket sports, but I tend to see it more in badminton than the other, however many you want to classify as sort of major racket sports, tennis, table tennis, squash, all these things tend to use hopping less. Badminton, it tends to be used for 2 or 3 different reasons, the main ones being as sort of a really fast way to change direction. So you might find someone traveling from the back coming forwards might hop and change direction, or you may find as they travel forwards you might go into a hop there, and that's the version that we're going to be looking at. So I'm going to start on my non-racket leg, and I'm going to take a big hop forwards into my shallow lunge, travel all the way back. And again, how you travel back is up to you. If you want to do the cardiovascular, the more heart rate raising version, you can travel back like you're playing, or if you want to focus on the lunge, you can just walk back. So we're going for 8 of each, shallow, medium, and full depth. So starting on that non-racket leg, hop, how much you want to tire this leg out. You could go for a bigger hop, you could go for height. Really up to you what you do on this one. We're mainly using it to give us some variety on how much effort we're having to put in to stop that from going from shallow into medium. Again, you can put your racket arm out if you need to. We're going to do one more. And then we're going to go for our medium depth. So I'm going to let the hip drop down a little bit more. Push back. If I show you from here, I'm still keeping that knee on top of the ankle. So we're not going into that full depth where the knee's going to need to travel forwards more. But I'm sitting that hip down more than I was in the first variation. Last one. And then we go for full depth. So the knee travels forwards more, back knee goes down a little bit lower, and probably a slightly bigger step. Oh, I'm getting tired now. And rest. So we go around that again. So the great thing about doing it this way is you have unlimited versions that you can do. So just by adding in a different variable, we're getting a different response. So either we're having to slow down from a greater speed, we're having to slow down from a different position, or what we're focusing on is slowing down at different heights, which is the main thing that we have to deal with in badminton. But if we go back to our first video, if we add in some of those variables, and I'm going to show you on this round what I mean. You can just keep going with the one you just did. But so this isn't like a 20-hour long video. I'm just going to show you what you could do. So if you took a variable from the first video, which was this, landing with the foot turned out, we could add that in as well. Or you could do a next round of exercises doing the hop and the foot turned out, and it would look like this. So 8 shallow depth, you're still going straight. I'm going to turn my foot out. Ready? So it's a hop. As I land, foot turns out, push back. Foot turns out. So now we've got a couple of different things we're playing with. We're playing with the height of the lunge. We're playing with the angle of the foot, so the direction we're turning the hip. We're stopping, so we're dealing with deceleration. And we're also dealing with different levels of hopping on this side if you want to. But remember, you don't need to be turning the foot out. Oh, look, another one. You can just carry on doing what we were doing in the last round. One more. Going for medium depth. Push back. And then obviously you could have this outward turned foot as an inward turned foot, which would look like this. I'm still going a straight line, turning that foot to face inwards and pushing out. And then we're going for full depth. So those are 2 of your variables, and you can add in as many as you wanted to work on whatever you think you need to work on. So if you think you're pretty good at lunging, but you tend to struggle when your foot doesn't land in the optimal position, you can start doing these foot positions. If you tend to struggle when you're lower down here, you just focus on going for that full depth. But there's lots of different versions you can do, and you can fit it to whatever you need to work on. We're going to call that 8, and rest. So that's our second round. So we're going to add in a squat jump. So a squat jump is a pretty generic exercise. So I'm going to move this small furry creature because otherwise I'll land on him. It's a pretty generic exercise. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it shallow to make it a little bit more like the split step we use a lot in badminton. There's a couple of things you can do for this. You could squat jump wider. We're just going to keep the feet the same, but we're going to make the landing shallow. So the motion is going to look like this. Shallow sit, jump up, shallow, and then I'm going to travel into a lunge. So it's going to be sit, up, lunge. Okay, so I'm not allowing myself to go into that full depth squat, and the reason for that is that we don't use that section of the squat in badminton. At no point, unless you fall on the floor and need to get back up, are you going to be down here. So there's not a huge reason for us to be doing repetitions in that range. So we might as well just take it out and make it more applicable to the stuff that we are doing regularly. And our split step looks like this. So there is going to be a little bit of movement here. So all we're doing is making that fractionally bigger so that we can up the amount of momentum we're generating, up the amount of force we're having to deal with in that lunge. So going for 8, foot's going straight, shallow landing. Ready? So drop, up, shallow. Good. So you can do with the hands whatever you want to. This is a habit from years of teaching classes. You could be in your ready position here, sit, whatever works for you. But we're still landing in that shallow lunge position. And we're going to medium depth, so parallel. Push back. I'll show you from this position here. Well, that's a bit of a deeper lunge than I meant. So drop. So this one's going to feel a little bit more like a pulse raiser. Your heart rate's going to get up. At least mine is. One more. And then we're going for full depth on the lunge. Squat jump stays the same, so shallow, up, big lunge forwards, push back. You can hear my breathing start to go a little bit faster, a little bit harder to breathe. Oh, crunchy knees. And we're letting that knee travel a little bit further over the toes. 2 more. Last one. And rest. And we're going to do one more round of that. So like I said, that time we're trying to mimic our split position to a certain degree. Obviously when most of us split, our feet end up wider. You could add that in as well if you wanted to. So you could go wide and then move. But we're doing one thing at a time for now. But that's another version. You could add in a whole other set where you go squat, up, wide, and then go forwards. Oh, really struggling to talk now. All right, we're getting serious. Right. One more round, starting shallow. Good, you're focusing on not letting yourself travel through that shallow position. So we're controlling when we stop. 2 more. Going to medium. Remember the squat jump stays the same. It's still shallow, up, down. We're just dropping into parallel position on that lunge. That's it. 2 more. Going into full range. So big reach, push back. Allowing that knee to travel forwards. And you can see I'm keeping a relatively even pace. It's your choice whether you do that. That even pace is just going to make it a little bit harder for me. Last one. And rest. And you can do it as fast or slow as you want. So you do it faster than I'm doing it. If your badminton level's quite high, if your fitness level's pretty high, and you want to push, working on dealing with fatigue, getting the same depth of lunge each time. But it really comes back down to why you're doing the exercise in the first place and trying to make it as specific as you can. And that doesn't mean that it has to just be playing badminton. We can take those movements, we can break them down. We can add load, like if you're in a gym and you wanted to add a barbell or dumbbells, whatever it is you like to use, and you can make it applicable. We're just starting to try and make it feel more like badminton, and as a result, getting more crossover to our badminton play in the long run. All right, we're going to do one more variation because we're already up to the same length of time as the first video. So, we're going to look at adding in some arms. I'm going to show you two variations, but you're just going to do the first one. I'm just going to show you the second variation on the second round. First one we did in the first video, which is going to be that reach forwards. And what we're looking at is how to not let this leg travel when the body travels. So a lot of the time when we hit, as much as being upright is great, we're using this position almost to cushion the shot, and also just because it naturally happens when we slow down, especially as we get tired. So what's going to happen is you're going to go shallow, and you're going to reach with the racket arm, and that's going to bring your body over. But what I'm not doing is I'm not going here and then down, which again you'll see a lot of people do as they get tired in the badminton courts. They'll come forwards and they'll play from here, and they'll pick up from the floor. So what we're looking at is reaching from the abdomen, but not collapsing through and not allowing it to push us down into our lunge. So we're still picking the depth of lunge. So doing 8 shallow. I'll show you one more time before we go. So it's going to be shallow lunge, reach forwards and back. And this is going to feel a little bit weird because you normally wouldn't fall forwards when you're moving at this speed. But remember, you could add this into the hop version, the squat jump version, as much addition as you wanted to once you get to grips with them all. All right, so we're going for 8. Ready? Off we go. Shallow lunge, reach forwards, push back. Shallow lunge, reach. And you can always put your non-racket arm behind you if you want to feel a little bit more balance, a little bit more like the position you're trying to do on court. So we're looking to try and get that body to reach at the same side, same time as the step. Right, going to medium, so a slightly bigger step as I reach forward. Change position so you can see me do it from a different position. So I'm letting that hip drop down to about in line with my knee, and I'm reaching forwards but keeping this under my control, so I'm not feeling like I'm dropping into it. One more. And I know I keep getting the numbers wrong, but in the end your muscles can't count, so it doesn't matter. As long as you feel like it's a workout, you can always send me a message if you want more specifics on numbers. Going into full depth. So slightly bigger step, and this is normally where that lean would happen. You see what just happened to me there? Is I dropped into it a little bit. Let's see if we can control it. So big reach, control, use your arms a little bit, feel like you can come back out of it from here. But I'm really trying to drop forwards into that lunge, push back out. Three more. Again, we put that non-racket arm behind us, and if we want to, and rest. All right, last round. You're going to do the same thing again. I'm going to show you a different variation, just so you've got something to try if you want to. You're really getting involved today, this one. You're in the way. You're in the way. Oh, and you're gone. So what I'm going to show you this time is I'm going to put my arms up. So this is a nice way to force us into a straight torso position. Because like I said, when we do that big lunge, normally we naturally lean forwards because it predominantly happens when you're scrambling for the shuttle, you're travelling a bit of a greater distance. So we're going to force you into a position where that can't happen. Just because we can, it's an added variable. Ideally you want to be as tall as you can. You want to be up straight through here, if you watch especially singles players move, when they move, even when they're moving backwards, this is all really up straight, nice and strong, and nothing really happens there until they're about to hit. So there's lots of traveling without losing control of hit. So it's useful in that sense. It's also useful just to feel like you can do it rather than collapsing into your movements as you get tired. So you're going forwards, I'm going to put my arms up in the air. Ready? Starting with a shallow lunge. Off we go. So I'm going to put the arms up each time, rather than keep them up, just so I'm getting this movement, rather than it staying in that position. So it's step and reach. Remember, you're still going forward. One more. And we're going into medium depth. Nearly there. Change my angle again. Right, going to full depth, last ones. Over the knees. And this is the one where this one I'm doing, I feel a little bit more difficult. The first two will probably feel quite comfortable compared to the lean forwards. And what you'll also see is because my arms are going up, I'm not able to get this knee as far over my toes. So the position I'm ending up in is slightly different. 3 more. Last one. And rest. So like I said, there's hundreds of these variables you can do. And you can link them together, so you could do that turn out, the step and the arms. You could do the hop, turn in and reach forwards. And then as you start to go, you can build them, you can link them together if you want to make it a sequence, or you break it down as small as you can if you want to make it work on that skill. Right, send me a message on Instagram or write a comment on YouTube if you have any questions about stuff. And I will put up video number 3 soon.